Well, to discuss the Republican debate, I'm joined by Tom Switzer. He's a research associate at the University of Sydney's US Studies Centre. Tom, thanks for coming in.
Andrew.
What's your view? Who won?
Oh, I think that Lisa's probably right there. It was Newt Gingrich. I think that he certainly sounded very articulate, sound in substance. He's highly intelligent. He does carry a lot of baggage from his time as Speaker of the House of Representatives in the mid-1990s, comprehensively wrong-footed by Bill Clinton. But in this field, I thought he was a standout today.
Now, I mean, the problem for the Republicans is they're really searching for a conservative candidate. It's many people are taking the view anyone but Mitt Romney, who is the front runner. So does Newt Gingrich fit that bill?
I think he probably does, Andrew. I mean, you're quite right. There are really two camps now in this primary race. There's Mitt Romney, who's essentially the establishment candidate. He has a lot of money behind him, including a lot of his own, very wealthy businessman. But he does represent a fairly liberal position. He's from Massachusetts, a very liberal state. He's been accused of flip-flopping on a lot of issues. So he himself carries a lot of baggage. The real battle right now is who is going to win the Conservative vote in the Republican primaries. Now, we've had very few candidates who have stood out. We've had, the current Texas Governor Rick Perry. We've also had Herman Cain, the entrepreneur, Michelle Bachmann, the Minnesota Congresswoman, and even one time we had Donald Trump. Now it looks like it will be Newt Gingrich who will fill the void.
Anyone else spring to mind? Obviously, we've seen massive blips in the campaigns for the likes of Herman Cain and also Rick Perry, as you've already mentioned. Does anyone pose a threat to the candidacy of Mitt Romney at this stage?
Well, I think Newt Gingrich is probably the candidate because he's coming in fairly late. He had all sorts of problems in the northern summer. He lacked funding.
And he lost his staff.
He lost his staff as well. But bear in mind, John McCain also lost his staff at the midpoint of 2007, and he came back to win the nomination. So I think that Gingrich has a lot of intellectual grunt. This debate was hosted by the American Enterprise Institute and the Heritage Foundation, two of the leading think tanks. He has a lot of connection with AEI, so I think he would have appealed to that audience.
But the problem with Gingrich in the eyes of many people in America is that he doesn't appear to be presidential. He flies off the handle somewhat.
Yeah, well, there's some truth to that. I mean, he's a polarising figure, and Bill Clinton completely and utterly wrong-footed him during the budget negotiations in 1995 that culminated in the shutdown of the government. Gingrich never really recovered from that mishap. But look, the Republican Party is in a pretty bad way when it comes to nominating a candidate. I can't help but think that he's the best one for the conservative wing of the party to take on Romney. What happens in late December and early January for the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary remains to be seen.
But then who has the best chance for the Republicans of beating Barack Obama?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think Mitt Romney, largely because he can appeal to the independents. America's a very polarised country. You've got 40% of Americans who identify themselves as conservative, about 20% identify themselves as liberals, but there's a big chunk that are independents. They come from fairly moderate, measured states, swing seats and swing states like Ohio and Pennsylvania. They're the ones who will determine who will be the next president.
Tom, we're also seeing a huge ideological divide over ways to cut this $15 trillion debt the United States has. The Republicans want spending cuts, the Democrats want tax hikes. How is this going to be solved?
Well, it won't be solved until we have an election. This is what the next year's election will be all about, a battle between two competing philosophical visions. There's the Barack Obama liberal democratic agenda of big spending stimulus packages to help prime the economy versus the more deregulatory small government approach. That will be the clash of philosophies at the next election. Only then will we be able to establish what gets said, because at the moment divided government is clearly not working. The Republicans dominate the House of Representatives. The Democrats have a very wafer-thin majority in the Senate, but of course the President's a Democrat and he will veto anything that the Republicans try to put through in the legislature.
Tom Switzer, thanks very much.
Thanks, Andrew.